The first thing that you do in the day is going to set the tone for the remainder of your day. Right? Because you're saying that like once you did one, like if you've done nothing and you try to do something, that's really hard.
Yeah.
If you've done something, is it easier or harder to do something else?
Easier.
Absolutely, right? So like if you've done two things, is it easy or hard to do the third thing?
Easier most of the time.
Most of the time, right? So if we think about the fourth thing, like at some point we're going to hit some kind of limit and we'll understand what that is. We're like the 10th thing may be hard, the 11th thing may be really hard, the 12th thing may be really hard.
Yeah.
But the second thing is easier than the first one. The third one is maybe about as easy as the second one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like which one is the critical thing?
The first one.
Absolutely. So I don't want you to think about your inability to do. So when you look at your life, you think about, okay, like I am unable to do 10 things today. I can't exercise on the bike. I don't use the walking path. We talked some about career and things like that. And so what happens at the end of the day, like you feel bad about yourself because you fucked up 10 things. There were 1,000 things you didn't do. First thing you need to understand is that you have one battle to win every day. That battle is the first one. So like if we look at strategically the days that you've done a good job, like what was it? It's just somehow you magically, so we're going to forget about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yeah. Something magical happened that allowed you to do the first thing. And the cool thing is like once you do the first thing, it becomes easier to do number 2, 3, and 4. So what we're going to try to figure out is how can we structure your life so that like doing stuff is easy for you instead of doing stuff is hard for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What I want to start to get into now is like, what is the difference? We're going to define a couple of terms, okay?
Okay.
What is motivation?
I mean, for me, it kind of blends in together with willpower somewhat.
Okay, let's talk about that. So blends together. So define motivation for me. Okay, so Feral Cat is saying, what keeps you doing tasks even if you don't want to but need to?
I'd say like the source of energy that you use to push through things.
Okay, so let me ask you something. If I need to use the restroom and I go and use the restroom, would you say that that is motivation? Would you say I'm motivated to use the restroom?
Yes.
Yes, okay. If I need to use the restroom and I don't use the restroom, what would you call that?
Idiocy.
Okay, that's good. But in terms of language, like, so the first thing that I want people to understand is like motivation is what we're naturally inclined to do, right? Like that's what it means. Motivation is an internal drive that is pushing us in a particular direction. Like if I'm hungry and I have a choice between a hamburger and a salad, like, what am I motivated towards eating?
I guess the hamburger.
Probably, right? So I want you guys to understand that, like, motivation is like when you did numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5, you felt motivated to do them that day, right? You didn't actually have to try very hard to do numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5. You felt like doing it.
Yeah.
So motivation comes from within, and willpower is actually the exact opposite. What is willpower?
Conscious effort.
Conscious effort, yes. To do what?
To do the thing you weren't motivated to do?
Absolutely. Right? So now we've got a couple of different options. We can increase your willpower, or we can cultivate your motivation. Those are two different things. Do you understand that, Joro?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? You look like you're thinking a lot.
Yeah. I'm thinking which one is more beneficial.
Yeah, so we'll get to that, right? Which one do you think is more beneficial?
I mean, with the motivation part, if I have, if I get that first step, then in that case it would be better, but with willpower, it would be easier to get to the first step sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk about both of those. Now we're going to talk about a couple of other things. What is discipline?
Self-rule.
Yes. Okay. So that's very good. Self-rule implies that there is a part of you that... So self-rule implies that you are not one thing. Right? Your mind is actually a couple of different things that are fighting against each other. So the way that we're going to try to help you out is by understanding what those different things are and what are the ways that you can like end up creating action. So one way is motivation, one way is willpower. So a lot of gamers feel like they're not motivated. Do you feel like you're not motivated?
Well, the first thing that came to mind is yes.
Good. What's the second thing that came to mind, my friend?
Kind of. So it's like first thing I thought was yes, but then it started to like
okay.
Am I?
So let's think about this for a second. When you had this thought that like you need to get groceries from the grocery store, you call that a lack of motivation, right? Mm-hmm. What do you do instead?
Stay at home.
Yeah, and do what? Be specific.
Stay on the computer.
Yep. And do what on the computer? Play a video game, watch YouTube, what is it?
Kind of all.
Okay. So the first thing I want you to understand is that like what is that? What is it that keeps you at the computer?
Keeps me.
Yeah. Is it motivation? Is it discipline? Is it willpower? Is it laziness?
I don't think it's laziness.
Yeah. So we're going to redefine laziness, right? Because all gamers think they're lazy. You're not lazy. You're motivated to stay at the computer. That's what I want you to understand. You have a natural internal drive that is keeping you in your computer chair, right? That's why we have to start by defining things. You have a desire to sit in the computer chair. You're motivated to actually sit in the computer chair. So the first thing that people need to understand is that you don't lack motivation. Your motivation is just in a direction that you don't want it to go. Does that make sense? And if we really think about how stuck you are, because you sound stuck to me, like if I had to diagnose you with a problem, it's stuckness.
Very much.
So if we think about like stuckness is actually hard to attain. Because there's a certain like stubbornness. It requires a lot of energy to move you away from this place. Which tells me that there's a lot of gravity pulling you towards this place. Does that make sense? Like we have to think about like the mind sort of mathematically. And if I like, so for example, I love my wife. I'm motivated towards being in the marriage. So it's going to take a lot for me to like think about divorcing her. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like the harder it is to pull you away from something, the more motivated you are towards it. So the first thing we've got to understand is that like, it's not that you're lazy. It's actually that some part of you is highly motivated to stay where you are right now. And until we like understand and realize what that is and how it works, it's going to be really hard to move forward. You can use willpower. And by the way, I would define discipline is a consistent use of willpower over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, what's a habit?
Use of discipline?
No, actually, the exact opposite. So when something becomes a habit, motivation, discipline, and willpower are all separate from habit. So a habit is something that you do automatically without being motivated, without being disciplined, without using willpower. It's a habit, right? So like just as an example, like when I use the restroom, I wipe myself, right? That's like, it's habitual. When I brush my teeth, I have a particular pattern. When I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth. Before I go to bed, I brush my teeth. It's a habit. It doesn't require willpower for me to do, or not much. Does that make sense? So once we get to the place of habit, things are going to become relatively easy because it's sort of like autopilot. Okay? So now
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, what do you think it is? Where do you think motivation comes from?
Through the need of something?
Okay, that's part of it. So let me ask you this. Do you need to have a job in computers right now?
A job, yeah, but not necessarily
Why do you need a
computers.
job?
I'd rather have a job and get disposable income.
Okay.
And eventually move out, but
Okay.
that's a long way ahead.
So hold on. Let me understand. You'd rather have a job, but does that mean you need a job?
Well, no.
Okay.
I mean, yes.
Hold on. Let's think about this for a second. Do you need a job?
Yes.
Why? What's going to change tomorrow if you have a job?
Depending on the job, I might have a type of
Sure.
routine
So what's the consequence tomorrow if you don't have a job?
that I don't have a job.
Yeah. Okay, so that's like, so we're going to replace the word job with the word yacht. You know what a yacht is?
Yes.
Okay. I need a yacht. Do you agree or disagree?
Yes. I agree.
I need a yacht? I need a yacht the way
Yes.
that you need a job, which means that I'd rather have a yacht than not have a yacht. The consequence for me not having a yacht tomorrow is that I don't have a yacht. Right? Do you have a place to sleep tomorrow if you don't have a job?
Yeah.
Do you have food to eat tomorrow if you don't have a job?
Yeah.
You have something to occupy your time that you find mentally engaging if you don't have a job?
Yeah.
Why do you need a job? I'm confused.
To get a sense of fulfillment,
Okay.
to
Yeah, so like, is that something that's going to happen tomorrow?
no,
Okay.
not necessarily.
When does fulfillment happen?
Sometimes when I do things.
Okay. Right? So I want you to understand what's going on in your brain, Joro. Your brain is way smarter than you are. Your brain recognizes what you need, right? Your brain says, hey, buddy, we need some food right now. Our blood sugar is low. Why don't you go eat something? Hey, buddy, we need a toilet right now. We have a bladder full of urine. Let's go take a piss. Your brain is telling you, hey, buddy, we don't need a job because we have everything that we need right here. What do we need? Nothing. You don't need a job. And then what happens is like there's a part of your brain that weighs how important things are. Like, so like your brain is always like trying to weigh different things against it's like different options, right?
Yeah.
Like, do I want to, so for example, like this bottle of water, like I can be thirsty, and the thirstier I get, the more that I want to drink the bottle of water. If the bottle of water is outside of my room, I'm going to have to be thirstier for me to walk outside and get my bottle. Does that make sense? Like
Availability.
Exactly. Availability, right? So like when we think about behavior and motivation, the availability of things, the internal drive towards things, and the expected reward all factor into whether I do something or I don't do something.
Yeah.
Like if I walked outside and I didn't know where to find water, like I'm not going to go down the street and start knocking on random people's houses and ask them for a glass of water. Why not? Because the expected reward is really low. Right? Like it's stupid. Like there's no reason why I would walk down the street and ask random people for glasses of water because the expected reward is like so hard to fathom. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think the expected reward of finding fulfillment is? Like, how do you think your brain computes that?
Not sure.
Absolutely. Either is your fucking brain. Your brain doesn't know what the fuck that means. Like, what is like, you don't even know. So how here you are, you're kind of telling yourself, hey, brain, we need fulfillment. And your brain figures a lot of stuff out for you. And your brain is like, I don't know And then so then you wake up, and then this is the part of your mind that says, hey, brain, we need to do something today. And then your brain says, why do we need to do something? Well, we need a job for independence. But he's like, you don't need independence. Like, you've got independence right here. You can sleep when you want to. You can eat when you want to. You can play games when you want to. This is actually the perfect lifestyle. And then you say, no, brain, but we need fulfillment. And your brain says, what is that? And then you say, I don't know. And the brain says, well, if you don't know what it is, then, like, why do we need it? Like, why would you want fulfillment when we can, like, play? Like, what do you play?
Recently, WoW.
Okay. So, like, why do you need fulfillment when you can, like, do raids on WoW? Like, why? Like, the brain understands, and the brain understands what WoW is. They're like, this is WoW. Like, this is fun. We can do this. Or we can go knocking on random doors to find fulfillment, because how do you find fulfillment?
I don't know.
Right? So it's like, where can I dig for gold and find gold? Like, that's, my brain's going to be like, that's a fucking waste of our time. Finding fulfillment is a fucking waste of our time. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I want you to understand, Joro, is that the reason that you're not doing any of these things is because you don't need to. Why do you want to be healthy? What does that mean?
To feel better.
Do you feel bad?
Feel better about myself. I mean, not all the time.
Yeah, right? So your brain is like, you start feeling bad, and then you tell your brain, you're like, hey, brain, we need to go exercise so that we can feel good about ourselves. Our brain says, you know what's better than walking back to, like, I'm at my office right now, and my brain says, you know what's better than walking back to your house, which is 3 miles away, for a glass of water, is walking right outside or grabbing this bottle, because you can walk 3 miles away for a glass of water, or you can drink the water in front of you. So you tell your brain, I want to exercise. And the brain says, why should you do all that effort to feel better when I can make you feel better playing WoW? Like, why do you, like, you can just play WoW. And, like, if you get that rogue dagger that you want, you're going to feel great. Your brain is like,
that's true.
why? I don't understand why you're trying to make my life hard. That's what your brain is saying.